buying new construction in Dallas almost always means a miserable commute. Your areas closest to job hubs are all landlocked. So yeah, you can find thousands of new construction homes in exurbs like Salina or Forney or Midlothian, but let's just say you want new construction in the heart of Dallas. Well, if that's the case, you may want to consider David Weekley. See, David Weekley is willing to build in small developments. So just which cities is David Weekley building in? Well, according to their website, they are currently building in 48 different communities across DFW. They're not even focused on any one side of the Metroplex either. They truly build all over DFW. So you talk about options. Now, the interesting thing about David Weekley is that while you can still find them in those major new construction areas on the outskirts of Dallas, they actually build a lot within DFW Central as well, because they're content to snatch up small areas within the more centralized, mostly landlocked cities. For example, they're building in Parker Place in Louisville. So out of 122 homes listed on the MLS for all of Louisville, only 11 are shown as new construction, and yet David Weekley still has a presence there. Same with Arlington at the Viridian community. Arlington shows 554 homes for sale and only 20 new construction, and yet you can find David Weekley. And it's the same story at other locations like the Hillside community at Las Colinas and Cami Place in the Colony. So if you don't have the luxury of living in the exurbs, okay, for example, you have to commute to work, you may find new construction options with David Weekley that don't have an hour-long commute and could even be right around the corner from some major economic hubs. So if we know that they build in a lot of places in Dallas, which we do, what we have to decide is the company one that you want to buy from, and what level of quality are we talking about with their homes? Okay, so can the company stand on its own 2 feet? How big are they overall? Well, their website states that the company has sold more than 120,000 homes and expanded to 19 markets across the nation. They continue sharing the company's history, saying David Weekley Homes began in 1976 in Houston, Texas, and has grown to become one of the largest privately held home builders in America, spanning across 13 states and 19 cities. Sounds like a pretty large company, but what kind of company are they? Have they received any awards? Well, again, their website chimes in. It says they've received more than 1,485 awards, including 850 for product design alone. They also say that David Weekley Homes was the first builder in the U.S. to earn the Triple Crown of American Home Building in honor, which includes America's Best Builder, National Housing Quality Award, and National Builder of the Year. So it sounds pretty good. All right, so let's talk about the more logistical side of David Weekley. Their general price range is from like the 319s on the low end all the way up to the 880s. So this is not what we're going to call a luxury home builder. It's more what we would call a mid-range builder. Nicer than Lennar and D.R. Horton, along similar lines as like Bloomfield and M.I. Homes, and nowhere near what you would find with Grand or Tradition Homes. But again, you have a lot of options here. On the lower end of that price range, you'll find communities like Creekshaw out east in Royce City. The price range there is $319,000 to $375,000. Now, Royce City is definitely one of the exurbs of DFW with a commute to downtown Dallas of around 45 minutes. Still, Creekshaw has a lot to offer out there, especially when it comes to amenities. It has a beautiful pool with shaded areas, a pond and fountain, a playground, and some open green space. That's really nice. They're also within Royce City ISD, which is A-rated by the TEA, and 17% of students score above average. Now, when it comes to the types of homes you'll find there in Creekshaw, you have both 1 or 2 story options. Many of the homes have beautiful covered porches with decorative stone. They also have varying colors of brick and some nice variation with their elevations. On the opposite end of the price range is one very popular community called Harvest Orchard Classic in Argyle. Now the price range is from around the $670s to the $880s. It's about 30 minutes to Fort Worth and just under an hour from downtown Dallas at about 50 minutes. When it comes to amenities at Harvest, they're basically endless. And I'm not just talking about the basic things like, swimming pools and pickleball courts. No, I mean things like its very own farmhouse, coffee, and treasure shop. Bicycles available to take a brisk ride around the community, and even a community garden where you can grow your own fruits and vegetables. So seriously, there is a reason this place is so popular. And of course, it still has the resort style pool as well. Actually, 3 of them, plus an orchard and gardens, a catch and release lake, and several event spaces. Harvest was actually voted Master Plan Community of the Year by the Dallas Builders Association in 2019. Now, school district, okay, Argyle ISD is also pretty great. Of course, the TEA gave it an A rating, and greatschools.org shows 100% of students scoring above average. Now that all sounds great, but what about the actual David Weekley Homes at Harvest? Well, on their website, they report, we've been awarded numerous times for our thoughtfully designed floor plans. And I can see that. They do have a lot of diversity at Harvest Orchard. Their front elevations are all really different, and they all have like sophisticated roof pitches at multiple levels. They're creative in their use of dormer windows and eaves as well. And they have plenty of options with decorative stone, as well as 3-car garage options. Plus, they have multiple brick colors and nicely done front porches. I would actually say that the most striking thing about David Weekley at Harvest is how different and unique their elevations are. Now, when it comes to David Weekley contracts, let's go ahead and talk about that. They have one big no-no that they put a strong emphasis on, okay? None of their homes can be rentals. Here's how the contract reads. Buyer represents that the property is being purchased for buyer's personal or family use as a single-family home, and the purchase is not intended to be an investment-only or rental property. Breach of this representation will result in cancellation of this agreement and forfeiture of all earnest money and option deposits. So if you're an investor or just a homeowner who's considering renting your home after a year or so, this is something to keep in mind, because they also say in their continuation of agreements and understanding section, all agreements and disclaimers contained in this agreement or any addenda shall remain in full effect after the closing and shall not be replaced or limited by any other document or agreement. Now, when it comes to obtaining financing, they're not awful, okay? They give you a pretty average amount of 30 days. The contract reads, buyer must in any event obtain loan approval within 30 days after the acceptance date or by the closing date. They also say if buyer fails to comply with the foregoing terms regarding loan application and approval or verification of funds, buyer will be in breach and buyer may retain all of buyer's deposits. So right there, all right, there's one way you won't be getting your deposit back. Another thing you want to be aware of in their contracts is the use of incentives. Here's how the contract reads. The incentive may only be applied to closing and financing costs allowed by the preferred lender. Any unused amount will not be credited to buyer. So basically, you can lose the incentive if the closing costs aren't enough. And you have to watch out in situations like this, because it's not at all uncommon for builders to make promises they can't keep in terms of how much they will give you as an incentive. Now, how about the convenience clause? Is it in the David Weekley contract? And if you're not familiar with this clause, okay, basically the convenience clause allows the builder to get out of the contract for any reason at all. So here's what the David Weekley contract says in their pre-closing dispute section. In the event of a dispute or disagreement between seller and buyer prior to or at closing, seller reserves the option to terminate this agreement upon written notice to buyer and return all deposits paid by buyer, plus pay buyer liquidated damages in the amount of $350, an amount which the parties agree to be a reasonable and foreseeable estimate of any actual and consequential damages incurred by buyer incident to the termination of this agreement. So yes, they do have a variation of the convenience clause, but at least you know you'll get your deposit back and possibly a little something towards your damages. Now, there are some things that are not in the David Weekley contract that are worth talking about. A big one is there's no escalation clause. Now, this is an ugly clause that basically means the contract price of your new home can change or escalate based on the builder's cost increases for materials. In other words, you could get to closing and suddenly not even qualify for the mortgage on it because the price has gone up. Another not so great thing that is thankfully missing from David Weekley's contract is penalties for late closing. I mean, tons of builders penalized for this, and the numbers can get pretty high too. So this is definitely something to be grateful for if you're buying a home from David Weekley. Okay, how do they do with CCNRs, all right? Do they put the information in the contracts for you, or do you have to hunt for them? And remember, CCNRs are the rules set by the HOA. So they cover things like whether, you can have chickens or build a shed in your yard. Well, here's what the contract says. Copies of the restrictive covenants and dedicatory instrument may be obtained from the county clerk. So it's not provided, but at least they tell you where you can find it. So you have to remember, this is your responsibility. Remember that when you sign the contract, you're agreeing to these rules. So do your due diligence and make sure you find out what kind of restrictions you're agreeing to before you sign. The appraisal is another way that David Weekley is surprisingly generous. They actually want to help if the appraisal comes in short, instead of the tough luck message that most new construction builders have. Here's what the contract says. I understand that if I am financing the purchase of the home and the appraisal obtained in connection with the financing comes back low, both seller and I agree that at seller's sole option, some or all of the following actions will be undertaken. If I am seeking financing through a lender other than PHM Mortgage, I will promptly apply for a mortgage loan on the same terms through PHM Mortgage. The application costs and appraisal fees will be paid by seller. I will obtain another appraisal, which seller will pay for. I will eliminate options and upgrades from the home to lower the cost of the home, and/or seller incentives may be reallocated to discount the price of the home. Now I have to tell you, this is unheard of. I have yet to see any new construction contract that even attempts to help the buyer if the appraisal comes in low. It's always the same message. If the appraisal comes in low, the buyer will make up the difference. So this is pretty remarkable. Now, property tax finality, on the other hand, pretty normal. The contract reads, property taxes, maintenance fees, and other assessments for the current year will be paid or prorated at closing. Now, here are a few other things in the contract you should take note of. In their community features section, they say any statement regarding planned or anticipated uses of parcels of land in or near the community is only speculative and you should not rely on it. And another one about views, okay? Views that are open at the time of sale may later become obstructed by subsequent development. Seller makes no representation or warranty regarding future preservation of views. Any statements by seller's representatives regarding views or future development are merely speculation and may not be relied on. So basically, if you fall in love with the home or community because of certain amenities they're advertising, or beautiful green space views, you need to know those are specifically not promised. Now let's talk about the warranty. Here are a couple of things that you should know are not covered. First of all, landscape trees. Those planted by Weekley Homes or its contractor are not covered under any warranty. Wood products, porches, wood products, including porches, are not warranted against rot or decay. Now, one great thing about their warranty is that David Weekley actually covers the warranty themselves with an in-house warranty service instead of just selling it to a third party like a lot of other builders do. Here's how the contract reads. At David Weekley Homes, we measure our reputation on how we treat our customers. before, during, and after closing. That's why we dedicate an entire department to our in-house warranty program. Our skilled warranty service team can help you resolve any construction or maintenance issues that might arise. Now, that's a pretty tall promise, but how about the coverage term? Well, they explain during the first year, you're covered by our 1-year limited warranty, plus the appliance manufacturer's warranties. Our 2-year mechanical systems warranty covers plumbing, electrical, central air conditioning, and heating systems. They continue, your peace of mind is what matters most. With David Weekley, you are not forgotten after construction is finished. Speaking of warranty though, how much will you actually need it with a David Weekley home? When it comes to construction quality, I always like to check out what kind of sheathing a company uses. And here's what David Weekley had to say when they were describing sheathing. To insulate the homes, the exterior walls were filled with R20 damp sprayed cellulose, then covered on the outside with 1 inch of R5 XPS rigid foam sheathing. I'm always glad to see a builder not using thermoply, but it is still foam sheathing. It's not as structurally sound as OSB. Okay, so far, David Weekley is claiming they have some pretty good quality homes and excellent customer service, but let's see what actual customers have to say. All right, Google Maps shows some decent ratings all over the Metroplex. They have Lakeside at Viridian getting 4.4 out of 5 stars, South Point 4.4, Harvest 4.6, Mustang Lakes 5.0, and Creekshaw 5.0. Yelp doesn't generally have many ratings on builders, but David Weekley has more than we often see with 27 reviews. The number isn't great though, okay? It's got a 2.1. Now, the Better Business Bureau, on the other hand, gives David Weekley an excellent grade of A+. However, their customer ratings are only 1.58 out of 5 stars. In the 3 last years, we've had 33 complaints, which is decently low compared to many other builders, and I only saw 5 complaints in the last 12 months. Another thing you should always try to find out about builders before buying is their third-party inspection policy. Now, many home builders put restrictions on their homes, or they'll tell you a third-party inspection isn't necessary. They'll discourage it, right? Well, David Weekley isn't like that. They choose to use third-party inspectors, and they encourage the buyer to also. Now, this is what they have to say. Our construction professionals inspect the construction and quality of your home. We conduct inspections at different stages by the jurisdiction in which the home is built. Your home must pass each inspection before construction can continue. All right, sounds good so far, but they aren't done yet. They continue. In addition, David Weekley Homes has professional third-party inspections performed on foundation, framing, mechanical systems, all plumbing systems, and all energy components. This is to verify that we are building your new home to code and have met all the necessary standards. Now, they also encourage you to use a third-party inspector, and they don't list any restrictions. A home is probably one of the largest purchases that you will ever make. An evaluation from a professional home inspector can help shed light on any structural, electrical, or foundation repairs that may be needed before your closing date, or offer advice on preventative maintenance. They continue. By actively participating in the inspection, you can mitigate any surprises in the report and better understand the references and callouts. Now, keep in mind that the report records the condition of the home, including positives and negatives. All right, I'm telling you, they just go on and on about the assets of a third-party inspection for buyers. They also say protect your new home investment by partnering with a home inspector and asking the right questions. Now, I have to tell you, it is a good thing David Weekley encourages home inspections, because we recently closed a David Weekley home, and I want to show you some of the issues the inspector found. Now, this is from the inspection report. For the roof, multiple nail holes were observed in the lower roof slope. Buckled shingles observed. Poorly secured tabs observed. A damaged shingle tab was present. So this is brand new construction we're talking about, and to me that is just sloppy. So the fact they encourage you to hire an inspector, okay, you absolutely need to hire one. I mean, every new construction home will have some deficiencies, but to me, to have a brand new home have roof issues like that, I mean, I really found that to be unacceptable. So I cannot emphasize enough, okay? You must get your home inspected. Now, if the idea of builders discouraging inspections is foreign to you, all right, it's actually happening a lot in Dallas new construction. I talk all about it in this video, which you may want to watch next. In the meantime, Wendy out.